So last night I was pretty much on one of those YouTube binges where I'm just watching whatever I want, and eventually I came across one of these old Mario Tennis intros. More specifically, the one in Power Tennis where it shows the blooper reels, which honestly really dawns on me on how much effort was really put into these cutscenes. And keep in mind, this is only for the opening of a tennis game, which honestly makes me look back at some of the other Mario games with really strong openings, because some of these are still talked about to this very day. Since there are so many Mario games with their different tones and styles, a lot of them try their own unique things, like one of them try and be like a Saturday cartoon or something. Some of them could be a bit more serious, while some of them are just trying to be a bit more simple and get straight to the point. With the best examples I could think of a Mario game just trying to be fun with the opening is with the Mario sports games. Like with Mario Golf 64 for example, where it's just pretty much them having a good time while Luigi's screwing up at the end. Or with tennis, where it's pretty much them having a competition, and this is where we get to greet with the Wario brothers. Where suddenly Bowser shows up, but he's just here wanting to play tennis as well. But these openings were especially expanded upon with the GameCube era, where it's pretty much focusing specifically on Wario and Waluigi. Like in Power Tennis, where after losing a match between the Mario brothers, Wario and Waluigi out of spite decide to vandalize the tournament board, which causes them getting chased by the police. Where they end up falling into Bowser's secret underground training facility, where Bowser trains the Wario brothers to the bone so that they can defeat the Mario brothers. AKA, instead of actually playing them in tennis, they decide to try and attack them with bombs, which end up backfiring on them and literally blowing up in their face. A similar thing happened with Mario Golf as well, where it's similar to the same idea, where the Wario brothers wants to win the tournament. But instead of teaming up with Bowser, the Wario brothers actually anger Bowser by hitting him in the eye with a golf ball. So this entire cutscene, he just has a black eye. Where during the whole thing, he's just straight up trying to kill Wario and Waluigi. While Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Daisy are just chilling, just playing golf. And when Bowser was able to corner them, he decides just to blow them up with a bomb, but then drops it after getting hit by another golf ball, with everyone else outside being confused on what just happened. These two opening cutscenes are definitely one of the best in the Mario series, as not only just shows more of the characters' lives as they're just playing golf or tennis, it's just plain funny. And in a way, you're kind of watching like a Saturday morning cartoon of the Mario series. And as for the other Mario sports games like baseball or Strikers, they're pretty much a bit more straightforward as it's them playing their respected games. Although for Strikers specifically, it goes way more over the top with Charged. Especially with characters getting literally electrocuted in these kinds of games. But as for later Mario sports titles, they kind of dwindled a bit when it comes to opening cutscenes. With the one tennis game on Wii U and the 3DS titles, they had no opening cutscenes, and when they finally returned on Nintendo Switch, they were pretty much alright. Strikers is pretty much okay, but it's a bit too standardized. Where it's basically a CGI cutscene of the characters in a match, it's not as over top as the other games. And as for tennis, well, this game has a story mode, so for the opening cutscene, it's pretty much an intro for that campaign. And I really do like the idea of what they're going for in this game, where Wario and Waluigi in this small little pyramid are trying to find this ancient relic so they can enhance their skills. That I like, but the main problem with this opening cutscene that really knocks this down is the awful sound mixing. Like, Nintendo is always known for reusing a lot of voice clips from Mario games for decades, but with this, it's honestly the worst reusage they've done. Like, the ending cutscene in this, after Luigi gets kidnapped by this demon, Mario just has this to say.
Luigi!
I'd say out of all the sports games, Golf had the best opening cutscene out of the three. I like how it focuses back onto Wario and Waluigi for this one, but also focuses on other characters. And even in the first bit having this cool little stylized intro. Which gives you to think that this game's gonna be good until you realize that it's Mario Golf Super Rush. And I'm not really too big on this game, sorry. And as for other Mario spin-offs with iconic opening cutscenes, another thing I could think of are probably the Mario Party games. Specifically the ones from N64 and Mario Party 4, but for the wrong reasons. Because as for the opening cutscenes for Mario Party 1 and 2, they can all boil down to people just bickering. With 2 being a bit more hilarious as they're pretty much arguing on who gets to call it their own land. Even when Bowser is terrorizing the land, they still bicker. And as for Mario Party 3, well, this one's a bit more interesting because it does show a bit more of a story, where the Millennial Star crashes down the Mushroom Kingdom and traps everyone inside of a board game. But none of them compares to the opening cutscene of Mario Party 4. Like, seriously though, why does the Mushroom Kingdom look like a Gmod map? And why are the characters animating like this? Like, why is Waluigi walking like that? And my favorite part of this is when the scene goes completely black and just pops up like it's a commercial break or something. The early 2000s, it was definitely something. But as for Mario games that try to tell a bit more of a bigger story like the RPG games, something like Super Mario RPG where the opening parts of these games is literally at Bowser's castle where you're trying to save the princess as much as any other Mario game. But then the rug suddenly gets pulled on you when this giant sword comes in and scatters everyone across the land. Now that is a memorable opening. And as for the Paint Mario games, well, the openings are divided into two sections. Like in 64, for example, where it tells the story about the Star Spirits before Bowser interferes and steals the Star Rod and capturing them all. And so during the second part of the opening cutscene where Mario gets invited to a party, Peach's castle suddenly gets lifted up into the sky by Bowser, where you have to do a small little boss fight where you cannot win at all. Really emphasizing the fact just how powerful the Star Rod made Bowser. Or in Super Paper Mario where it tells a story about this ancient book that holds dark power. And then the scene changes to an area that takes place after you even boot up the game, where it shows Princess Peach and Bowser getting married by this evil magician called Count Bleck, where after fulfilling the wedding summons this mysterious black heart, which makes you question multiple things like who is this guy, why does he need this heart, and how devastated Bowser was after this divorce. But after that, the opening cutscenes for Paper Mario became less and less interesting, like oh no, Bowser's running amok. But I feel like he eventually picked itself back up with Origami King, where when the Mario Brothers heads to Toad Town for a celebration, the whole place is deserted, and once entering the Peach's castle, Mario finds Peach in this zombified state, which leads you banished to the underground dungeons with Bowser and his minions. And eventually once you find Bowser in this wet floor sign state, the two just run up the stairs until they were able to meet Peach again, where you get to introduce to the main villain named King Ollie, who really shows how powerful he is by levitating Peach's castle up in the air. Now this is a really good opening. But as for the openings for the Mario and Luigi games, the setups they do in these games are very unique from one another. Where the head of another kingdom comes to Peach's castle to give her a gift, which turns out to be a trick by this evil witch named Cackletta and her assistant Fawful, with their plans is trying to steal Peach's voice, which leads to Mario and Bowser doing a small truce to get it back. I feel like the openings for games like these really held up to this very day, just because how very funny this whole thing is. Like, the opening cutscene is very ridiculous, with Peach's voice being replaced by actual bombs, or the fact that Toad actually sees Mario naked. And the moment Mario puts on his clothes, he then drags Luigi across the kingdom into Peach's castle. Pure comedy gold. But you know what's my favorite kind of trope in an opening cutscene? The ones where it's basically quiet before the storm. And I feel like Luigi's Mansion 1 and 3 does this excellently. Where with the first game has Luigi slowly going into this dark forest alone with a lone flashlight, as he tries to search for this mansion that he apparently won in a contest. He looks down for a sec to check out his map, and when he looks up, you see this sinister view of the mansion. And once you enter inside, it is completely dark and quiet, really emphasizing the fact that this place has been abandoned for years. And after checking around for the various doors, you suddenly greeted with a small little ghost that gives you the key. And this is when Luigi meets Egad and gets attacked by the ghost. I really like this opening because it really gives it an unsettling vibe, which is very different from the average Mario games. And as for Luigi's Mansion 3, it does something a bit different but similar at the same time, where Luigi and his friends get invited to this giant hotel. I really adore this intro because it really gives a much more of a slice of life take on the Mario series, as it's everyone trying to settle into this new location, like with Mario being really tantalized by the various foods on the table. And I also like how after Luigi's Mansion 2, Polterpup is pretty much Luigi's dog. And as you settle into this really cozy and shiny room, Luigi immediately goes to bed, and suddenly when he wakes up in the middle of the night with Peach screaming, the whole setting flips to a freaking dime as everything looks very sinister now. Where it's revealed that this whole thing was a big trap by King Boo, who wants to trap Luigi in a painting, ending things off with a little chase sequence where Luigi runs away. I really love this opening because it really builds up to something very tense. And as for Dark Moon, while I do kind of like the opening, it feels a bit too straightforward compared to the other two. And going back to Mansion 3, the only other game I could think of that has similar beats to this game would have to be Princess Peach Showtime, the most recent game. Where in this game, Peach gets invited to go to a giant theater, and when you enter the area, you can just walk around and talk to the NPCs. But then suddenly, bam, a giant conflict appears. The only big difference between the two is that it's a much more simplified version of the setup. You know, with Sonic CD, it was pretty much a revolution at the time, as you get to see this cool little opening cutscene in 16-bit glory that is a sight to behold, which is something that people still talked about to this very day. Hotel Mario is like this, but for the wrong reasons. Now, I've got to say, is that this is definitely the most meme-worthy thing out of the Mario series. Like, these animations and everything led to various funny memes over the years. Same thing with Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Now, with the games after the GBA, it pretty much boils down to Pauline getting kidnapped, but with the original entry, there is so much to talk about. Especially at the ending of the cutscene, where Mario just angrily screams at Donkey Kong in this Brooklyn Italian gibberish.
No, you don't. No, you don't. What are you doing? What's going on here? Oh, mamma mia, tutto arrabbiato.
That final part always gives me a damn chuckle because I've never seen Mario that freaking angry. But it's kind of a shame that this was pretty much lost in the remake. But I'll give them credit for really doing a good job re-animating the cutscenes. And this leads us to the mainline Mario games. So with most of the mainline Mario games, they're pretty much just straightforward. Especially with the 2D ones where it's pretty much Bowser kidnaps Peach. But sometimes they do get slightly creative with it. Like in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, where the whole thing is that Bowser Jr. has a frickin' Trojan cake. And so when they reveal themselves, they then stuff Peach inside the cake and run off with it. Something like that really does give me a chuckle. And then we head all the way up to 2023, where basically, since Nintendo essentially retired with the whole damsel in distress thing with Peach, they decided to try something new with Bowser, by this time his evil plan being to merge with the castle of another kingdom. Again, it's still very simple with Bowser just running amok, but at the very least it's a bit more interesting than him just kidnapping someone. But then we head to the Z-Axis Mario games, where the opening in Mario 64 is very simple but very effective. As when you boot up the game, it shows a little cutscene with a note from Princess Peach, where she invites Mario to have a slice of cake. And then we pan to Lakitu, and then we have this cool zoom around with Peach's castle, which is honestly the most iconic thing from the Mario series. Like, you cannot tell me this pan shot is not recognizable. And then we zoom into this grassy plain where the warp pipe appears, and then BAM! Red Luigi. But if you ask me, my personal favorite opening cutscene in any Mario game period is Super Mario Galaxy. Now with this, it's pretty much set up similar to Super Mario 64, where Mario gets invited to Peach's castle for a party, which so happens to be the Star Festival. As Mario walks into Toad Town headed to the castle, Bowser suddenly attacks the kingdom, and unlike other games where it's like, "Whoa, I'm gonna steal you, Peach," this time he means f***ing business, as literally everything is on fire now. The moment you walked in, everything is in this nice little calm blue hue, but now everything is full on red. As Mario rushes to the castle, and then suddenly he lifts it up into outer space. And to add the finishing blow, Kamek then appears and blasts Mario all the way back down to Earth, being saved by this lonely Luma. I really love this opening because even though it's pretty much a simple, straightforward plot of Bowser kidnapping Peach, it's steered to a much more serious tone. Like, no other 3D Mario games has Bowser felt like a big threat like this. And this is only just the first part of the opening, because when we get to the second half, Mario wakes up on this lonely planet. And what really stuck out to me years ago, and even to this very day, is the much more somber atmosphere of this game. Like, you're on this lonely planet, and the only inhabitants are these small little sentient bunnies that turns into stars. And this is also where we get to meet Rosalina, who gives us a little Luma bite to give Mario's simple spin attack. I really love how this opening really shows in what kind of game you're going to be going into, which is something very grandiose but also somber at the same time. And this is why I can consider Super Mario Galaxy as my favorite Mario intro of all time. But what about you guys? What is your favorite Mario intro? Is it from the various mainline Mario games? Is it from the various spin-offs or RPGs? Leave a comment below on what's your personal favorite. But that'll do for today, so thank you for watching and I'll see you later. Bye-bye!